Again, my apologies for all the background noise. It's Sunday, but the construction work is going on. So much for municipal laws. This picture shows our garbage collector the day he came in protective gear and eventually got COVID-19 and he recovered happily. I'm so happy. But this picture, again underexposed, he looks like an alien, and that is the kind of impression that you want to make with the photograph. He looks frightening, and that tells us a lot about the overall fear, the atmosphere, the ambience of fear that we lived with. All these cats, and there are 2 dogs at the municipal market just at the junction, and with all the shops closed, all the meat stalls closed, they were close to starvation. Happily, well-wishers brought them food, and I took some pictures of the cats feeding. These images were taken later during the second lockdown last month with a GoPro. During the first lockdown I didn't have my GoPro. As to why, you can see that story in my video, a good way to ruin a brand new GoPro. This woman lives in a public park in Colombo, and I have no idea how she's not a beggar. I've never seen her beg. I have no idea how she lives, but she's always neat. I would say coquettish, and I have seen her for 20 years in the same public park, and she used to have a flower stuck here and in very bright clothing and always very clean and neat. And passing this park during the lockdown, I saw her sitting alone on a bench. So I talked to her, and she said she had nowhere to go and is looking for a home. She's old now, so I decided to take her pictures. If I had my standard lens, I would have taken a better portrait, but given the limitations of this short zoom to blur the background with a maximum aperture of f3.5, I still managed to get a decent amount of blur in the background. Then there was a very good photo opportunity when I accompanied this young woman reporter and photojournalist into a slum area of Colombo, what is called here a tenement area. And in this neighborhood there are 1,500 families, all living together. But I found it very clean. It's not dirty, though it's teeming with people. It was not dirty at all. It was very clean, and the houses were painted in bright colors. So people are proud, obviously proud of their humble surroundings, and that struck me deeply and touched me. And in these photographs you can see various aspects of daily life within the teeming area during lockdown. Street life, street graffiti, and again the portraits, which are very important, as I said, in a composite, to make a composite picture of a situation like this. You see, photographing women is very difficult, but photographing the men, again not easy, because this area, it has a reputation for drug trafficking, and some people they don't like cameras. You go in with a camera, they're suspicious. We had a guide, a local resident, so that eased things, but still some people didn't want to be photographed, so you have to be careful pointing your camera. But it was a very good experience for both of us. I can talk about some of the pictures I missed. I wish I had taken them, but then when I look at what I took, I have a satisfactory picture of daily life there, and this old guy calmly going about repairing a gas cooker, and he had a Gandhian look that struck me. He was very calm and stoical in the face of a very difficult situation. And this girl, little girl, sitting happily inside her father's 3-wheeler taxi. They were all out of work, but coping with the situation as best as they could. Then there was this closed supermarket door. Since the arrival in Colombo more than a decade ago, I had never seen a supermarket closed any day of the year. So it was an unusual sight. One night I noticed the moon rising. It was getting covered by passing clouds. They were through my backyard roof, and it looks beautiful. I mean, I thought this should be part of the story, you know. There was a awakening of nature. Unfortunately, I've lived surrounded by concrete. I can't go around to photograph it, but at least I can see the moon. So that was wonderful. Then I took these night shots from the area, Colombo 1 area. And there is a passenger bridge. I climbed on top and waited for vehicles. This was just a week after lockdown was lifted. There were still few people around, but buses were running. And then you get these masked people in the streets. This was about 2 weeks after lockdown was lifted, and the streets were again crowded. People, they were anxious to get back to their normal lives, the life that had been lost. And you can see in the faces the anxiety, the worry, and the urge to, and the inspiration even, to get life going again. These final frames were taken during the second lockdown, which started in October and is continuing sporadically in parts of the country even now, as we are experiencing the second COVID-19 wave, and this is far more serious than the first wave. And these were taken with my GoPro, my second camera. You have again a man who lives off the streets with his bicycle. I found that elbowed, very curious. I asked him about it. He doesn't have his hands, and he said the police threatened to prosecute him. Hence, he had that learner board, which is in a way funny but also pathetic. I don't think the police should prosecute a man like that. And there was this cobbler who lives down my street, and he was really worried. This was the day before lockdown was announced in my sector, and he was worried. I asked him what he's going to do, and he said he had no idea. And again, the cats at the market, municipal market. Again, the cats at the municipal market, they were having a hard time again with all the stores closed. And you can see how they're screaming for food as I approach. The distortion here, provided by this type of camera with the ultra-wide lens, is sometimes it looks grotesque, but it's interesting kind of photography. In summing up, as I said, under lockdown, you don't get dramatic pictures. But when I look at the pictures that came from all over, I didn't see really anything that, you know, something that characterized the entire frightening phenomenon. Like you get pictures from civil wars, the Second World War, conflicts. You may get one picture that may tell the entire story, but I didn't find anything from that. It's just masked faces. But you still can tell a picture, you know. You don't have to have high drama. You can, with what is going on around you, you can build up a composite picture of that event that shook the world. Really like a world war, but not as dramatic to the eye. That is the only difference. And you can, if you don't have the benefit of a press identification as I did, you can still take photographs in your own neighborhood. You are not going to be under lockdown forever, and even under lockdown you can look out of your window, photograph your family, your pets. These are all part of the story. How are people coping? You can do that, and I don't think you should let that opportunity pass, because I think we are now hopefully coming to the end of this COVID-19 with the vaccines available, and hopefully we will not see that something as frightening as this again. But remember that once the opportunity is gone, you will never get it back. So take your camera and tell your story. As time goes by, it will become more and more important. Of course, there is the safety factor to consider. When you go out to take photographs in a COVID-19 situation, you are taking risks. If you are living alone, you could probably decide that it doesn't matter, that you are going to take the risk. But supposing you have a family, you are living with other people, you have to take into consideration that their opinions. In my case, I decided not to go into hospitals. It would have been difficult to gain access, but with a media card, I could have done it if I tried hard, but I didn't, because there were already objections from my family members about going out. So I didn't want to get into extreme situations and multiply the risk factor. Just remember that when you go out there, you are also putting other people at risk. In most of those situations, I was working pretty much alone. The subject was some distance away. I didn't spend much time with the subject. I took the photograph quickly and left. That's a purely personal decision. You can take the risk or not. But remember, you have to weigh certain aspects, certain things. Just remember that when you go out there, you are also putting other people at risk.